good doctor herself, Dr. Ellen Wald. Dr. Wald, before I ask you how you're doing, I will say I thought of you this morning as I got up and I got on some news website. I don't remember which one it was, and it said it's so cold in Florida the iguanas are falling from the trees. And I was like, "Hey, you just talked about that."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I didn't see any because we don't really get iguanas up in northern Florida, but we do have a lot of geckos.
Mm,
And on Saturday, I was out for a walk, and normally when like you see one of the little like lizards, they just like scurry really fast. This lizard was like moving very slowly, and I was like, he must be really cold
really
because
cold.
they're cold-blooded animals. And I was like, he's probably trying to get in the sun so he can warm up.
So yeah, but yeah, I don't know where I saw that. I saw iguanas are falling from the trees. It's so cold in Florida. It's supposed to get pretty nippy here. I think the low on Thursday is 15. So
Whoa! Are we
yeah.
talking like another freeze? Is everyone prepared? They're gonna leave their
Okay.
pipes
Well, okay.
running
No
this
one's
time?
prepared. Let's not get carried away with that. Obviously, no one's prepared. So it's we have a chance of rain that on Wednesday it goes from 50 to 23. Then on Thursday the high is 26 with a low of 15 with a 50%
Ugh.
chance of frozen mix. And then it'll thaw out by Saturday, Sunday, and kind of warm back up. But yeah, so we got a few nice few cold, wintry iguana tree falling days ahead of us here.
Maybe I'll get some snow.
Yeah, the kids would love that. So okay,
Yeah.
all right, let's get into it. Start off with a story that I don't understand. People got a few of those today, but this is one of them. Courts. This is in the United States of America. Um, Courts blocked an offshore lease sale because apparently they want to calculate. Let's see here, ruling that the administration must run additional calculations on the leasing plan's potential contributions to global greenhouse gas emissions. And then goes on to say that it failed to include a calculation of potential impacts on global fossil fuel consumption if this lease sale were not held at all. Um, I mean, I don't even know what we're doing anymore. Like we're just we're
I
just
mean,
we're
is
just
that like yeah? Is that like saying how much oil do you and gas do you think is going to be extracted from these leases, and people are going to buy it and they're going to burn it, and then and like at that point you're like in such a like what if territory. I mean, these people haven't even taken possession of the leases. They don't even know what's there. I mean, they have reason to suspect that there's
right.
stuff there, but it's not like they've gone and drilled anything. How are they supposed to know how much they would extract and whether the price, calls for it to be extracted? And it's like, it's just insane. It's just like, yeah, it's like when they criticize like Saudi Aramco because they don't include the emissions from the products that they're selling to other people in their emissions data. It's like, but they're not creating those emissions. They're just providing a product. That product, for all we know, could sit in storage somewhere for years until and it could be burned at much lower emissions than we have now, just simply
Right.
because like so it's like what is it that they want?
Well, and it says you can say let's take these two things. Must run additional calculations on the leasing plan's potential contribution to global greenhouse gas emissions. Which, to your point, is it would be hilarious if they just issued a report and said um, no one's ever going to use this to our best guess, and therefore and therefore we don't know. Sorry, but
Yeah.
on the other thing is it says failed to include a calculation of potential impacts on global fossil fuel consumption if the lease of the sale were not held. Okay, so they're saying if they don't do the lease, how does that impact the fossil fuel consumption? Well, I don't even know. Like, how do you calculate? You see, wouldn't you argue that theoretically that it could drive prices higher, and therefore other countries like what are we are you? It feels like the judge is wanting them to say, well, if we do this, more people are going to use fossil fuels, and therefore we shouldn't do it. Like that, it's almost like you
Yeah.
want them to say that, but that's not necessarily the. I don't even. It's,
Yeah, you could argue that if the lease sale were not held at all, then people would buy more oil from Russia and Africa, where the the environmental impact of extracting that oil is much higher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you could say that.
Absolutely. You can say a lot of things, and none of it, as we know, you can necessarily um, um, get it done. Yes, yes. Okay, so someone said we should do this on Twitter Spaces. I agree. We looked into that. It's I don't know how to. So I've done a Twitter Space. I don't know how to do the video, the computer, and all that. I need to look into it. We have discussed that though. So thank you for reminding us.
Yes.
If you know of a good tutorial link, just send it to me, and we'll go through it because I did look into
Yeah.
it, but I couldn't figure out how to patch it to the computer. And we have articles and stuff, and I've seen people do it, but I don't know how. So if you know how to, shoot me a DM.
Yeah.
My DMs are open. We'd love to do it on Twitter Spaces. So thank you for that. Okay, now this is something that we talked about last week as well. Before Ukraine standoff, U.S. pitched its quote freedom gas to Europe and found few takers. Yeah, I mean we kind of made fun of Peary for calling it the freedom gas. It was kind of a silly name and all that stuff. But it is this is a factually true point that we did.
Yeah.
This was attempted. This was something that people tried
Oh yeah.
for years, and the Europeans didn't want it. And so that's why I keep going back to. I don't know why this is such a big controversy that we're involved with. This is what they wanted.
Yep. This is what they wanted, other than Poland, which did take us up and
Sure.
has diversified its supplies. So, you know,
Yeah, not every single EU nation, but just by and large, especially the big players. Um, and so, and I did hear who was it come out over the weekend. I was watching some show, and they were even kind of pointing out that some of the rhetoric from the U.S. side is um, a little bit wonky compared to, or not wonky, but off compared to what's happening on the border there.
oh my God, yeah. I mean, there's like, it seems to me like is the U.S. like warmongering or something? I mean, to me, it's like it seems like if you compare what is coming from the U.S., where like the Pentagon is like a Russian invasion of Ukraine is likely imminent,
Hmm.
and Biden's acting like Russia is literally like about to invade Ukraine, and then you have like the president of Ukraine being like, we're used to this. Like it's we don't really think they're going to invade. It seems like they're pushing for this to be something, or their intelligence reports are just saying this. I don't know exactly. In fact, I had a thought earlier today, and I wrote it on Twitter. I'm curious what you think of it. So, say you're really trying to figure out whether Russia's going to invade Ukraine.
Hmm.
So, and or so they've threatened sanctions, right? Like the U.S. has threatened
Hmm.
sanctions. We don't know exactly what those sanctions will be, whether they're just going to be on some like Russian oligarchs, or are they going to shut off the SWIFT system? Are they going to sanction Russian oil and gas? We don't exactly know, but say you expect that these sanctions would impact oil and gas sales, wouldn't you, as Russia, if you were planning to invade, be working out other sales for your
Hmm.
oil?
Hmm.
So, like, if the US is not going to buy your oil because they're going to sanction it, and at least some people in Europe might not, and you have a pipeline to China, wouldn't you be contacting your Chinese contacts and say, hey, you want to buy more Russian oil? And like, wouldn't you want to buy more Russian oil? We'll sell it to you at a discount. You could buy it and we'll accept yuan or rubles or whatever because they already have that in place. Shouldn't that be something that people are looking for as a potential indicator of plans to invade?
So if I'm
I don't know. It just seems to me.
right,
I don't know. I put that out there on Twitter, and people were like, "Well, China already buys so much sanctioned oil. They're not going to buy more sanctioned oil." I don't know. To me, like that just seems like something that I would do if I was Russia.
yes, if I'm following along, you're saying that if you're planning to invade, you know that's going to disrupt your oil and gas distributions. Therefore, you would find an alternative buyer now so that you don't lose the money, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Or if I knew, yeah, basically. I mean,
So I don't.
like,
So I think possibly the flip side would be as though is if the Russians aren't concerned about the ramifications of invading, then maybe they might not. And I don't know.
well, yeah. If they, yeah. I mean, if they don't care, or they're like, fine, we'll just turn our ships around in the middle of the Atlantic or
No, no, no.
wherever they're
I'm
headed.
saying I don't think the Europeans are going to do anything.
You don't think the Europeans will stop buying Russian oil if the U.S. puts sanctions on it?
I'm not sure. I mean, are we confident the U.S. is going to do that much? Too? I mean, I'm saying
I
the
don't think we're
Russians.
confident. I just think that given the types of sanctions that have been discussed, it's definitely. I mean,
I mean, wasn't
anything.
it Obama who said that you can't cross the line in the sand, and then they crossed the line in the sand, and that never happened?
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean, yeah.
so
Hmm.
I don't know. And then who knows? You never know these things. I just don't think that. I don't think the Russians. I don't think they're going to invade. A, B. If they were going to invade, I don't necessarily think that they're concerned about the ramifications. I don't. I don't get the vibe that the Europeans really want the Americans to overly sanction the Russians. That would mess their deal up even worse. So I'm assuming that Germany, whoever would call the U.S. and be like, hey, don't do this. So I don't. So I would agree with your thesis if I thought the Russians were concerned that they might be getting hammered. I don't think the Russians are
Hmm.
concerned with it. Does that make sense? I think the Russians think that
Yeah.
whatever's happen.
I mean, I don't think that they're going to invade.
I don't think they're going
So,
to invade either. No, I don't think they're going to invade either. But if they were going to invade, I don't think they're like, oh my gosh, the U.S. is
yeah.
going to hammer us. I don't. I just don't think so.
Yeah. So you don't think they're going to. So even if they did have some kind of incursion or whatever it is that you think the worst sanctions would be like, you Russian oligarchs, you can't come to New York and shop at Tiffany's.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that like this guy, the energy blogger, is pointing out that if you took them off the Swift, you're talking about just a spike in
Oh, yeah.
prices, right? And so, can the Biden administration? This is be practical. Can the Biden administration afford a huge spike in prices? Can you convince the American people that you need to send oil prices higher because the Russians invaded the Ukraine? I
No,
don't
not
think.
at all.
I don't.
You
You're
can't
right.
convince. Yeah,
Right. So
you can't convince them that we need higher oil prices to do things that they claim they support in general elections.
right.
So
So
you can't convince Americans that any kind of troops in Eastern Europe is a good idea. I mean, come
right.
on,
So,
like
so
no,
that's what I'm saying. So I don't think. So I don't think they're going to invade. But if I did think they were going to invade, I would think that they're not concerned about what the U.S. is going to do in response. So
hmm.
if they were concerned, I agree with your thesis. So I don't think it's a bad thesis. I just think in this case, it doesn't
So
necessarily
does
matter.
that mean? But is there like a corollary to that? That maybe the fact that Europe wasn't, like Europe's not concerned either. They don't
I
care. They're
agree.
going to keep buying that Russian gas.
Yeah,
They're like, yeah, whatever. We don't care.
that's. I mean, it's hard to read the situation a whole lot of other ways other than that. That by and large, the powers that be at Europe aren't really concerned, and Europe aren't concerned. The Ukrainians for whatever they think, the Ukrainians got a kind of tough spot because they got to posture some. They can't say, "Hey, Putin, cross this line and see what you get." Like
Yeah.
they can't provoke too much, and so they're kind of stuck. But everyone else seems to kind of be on the same page. And yeah, so if Biden sanctioned took the Russians off the SWIFT, and gas, you're talking about prices going crazy. I'm assuming we'd quit buying from them, and we said what it's like 11% of our imports are from them. You're talking
It
about
was, yeah, for in 2011, like between like, yeah, it was like 11%. So we're talking not an insignificant amount of oil.
right, and
We could buy it elsewhere, obviously. I
sure,
mean, like we could buy it from the Saudis or Iraq, or it's not like it's not like there aren't other options for buying oil. It's just like
right.
there
But,
be a slight dislocation.
but to your point, though, the amount of countries that will buy the sanctioned oil goes down to a lot. Like it's China will buy it, and some other folks, but I doubt France is going to be buying the illegal oil from the Russians. Maybe, but I don't. So I don't know. We'll see. I did talk to Rosano. I had him on the podcast the other day, and he said that he thinks kind of like we were talking that it's got a. He had a thaw date. I can't remember what it was, but it was like next 30 or 60 days the ground starts to thaw over there, and at that point the tank's got to go because it's just too soft. So
Huh.
it's going to wrap up regardless. So okay. Speaking of
Hmm.
this whole kerfuffle, Biden is looking for ways to help his European buddies. We talked about this last week. I mean,
Yeah,
can Qatar
it's
really do
like
anything?
Apparently not, though. That's the thing. Apparently they're tapped out. They can't suddenly decide that like to just produce more oil. But it says Qatar is already producing a full capacity with much of its supply under contract to Asia. Even if some Pacific allies of the U.S., including India, Japan, and South Korea, are persuaded to divert some LNG orders that is contracted to Europe, it will only have a small impact. So they're basically saying, like, no, there isn't. They're like Qatar is what do they expect Qatar to do?
Right. And then from Energy Blogger
But
says that the European gas demand fades at the end of February, which is also true. So yeah, so the Russians' time is running out. I mean, it feels like everyone's kind of stalling here, right? I mean,
yeah,
everyone's stalling, and it's just we'll go on about our business and move on. The question I do have though is when we looked at some of these contracts we talked about, back when Perry was in and they want to buy and these long term contracts that are signed. Will this reshape any of that messaging, or when we talk about this every year for the next 5 years, the Russians are not providing, or the Russians are threatening, and the Europe will this reshift
yeah.
anything, or is this going to
Every
be like a
four
recurring?
years,
Yeah,
yeah. I think this, yeah, and I think slowly by slowly the Russians will gain more. Um, I think they'll gain more in Eastern Europe. I mean, they still like don't like Russian sympathizers kind of run Crimea now. Like I do think that they will gain. Even if they're not poised to invade or anything, they will win. Like they'll continue to like pick up Russian sympathizers. For at some point, the government of Ukraine may change over. I think that they're in it probably for the long game, and this is just one part of the long game.
how old is
But
Putin?
Biden will be gone, and who knows whether his people might still be around, or they may be in think tanks instead of in government. But you know,
Well, the one thing that we do see on the U.S. side is that the warmongering is strong. The neocons have now gone to quote Democrats, and they're warmongering on that side, and it's just the
what do
warmongering.
we call them? Just like neo Dems,
Dems.
neo libs.
I don't even, yeah, just like the Democrats. It's like, oh, you took all the neocons, they want to just bomb everybody. Guys, come on, really?
God,
It's crazy.
yeah, and they just want. It's like I don't know. I don't get it. I do not get what like. Is this supposed to help him in the polls? Because it's the American people care about the economy, inflation, the price of things, and to some extent, coronavirus. They are either worried about it or they hate the restrictions.
Hmm.
Like that is literally like all people care about right now
Hmm.
in America. They do not care about the Ukraine. They do not care about like he's not going to get some sort of patriotic outpouring against Russia. Nobody cares about Russia.
Yeah, it's a very, very small thing. And then the other thing is they do have nuclear weapons, so we should be very careful about, I don't think it's going to come to a World War III in that, but it is funny that how we talk about other nuclear powers, like, yeah, we get over there and let's go fight them guys. Like, guys, they do have nukes. We should probably cool the jets just a little bit
Hmm.
before we start getting to that point. So, um, but the neocons are the neocons. So, what are you going to do? Despite the fact this show has been accused of being a right wing propaganda puppet, haven't
Oh,
what
we're right wing
I
propaganda.
think isn't that us right wing propaganda? So
Yeah,
as we
yeah,
blast the neocons, okay,
yeah.
okay. Explainer: why U.S. natural gas prices spiked by a record 70% on Thursday. I did see this kind of hitting around people. I know some guy following Twitter is in a midstream company, and he was excited about selling some gas. I think it was on Thursday, but it seems to be that this is going to be short lived.
Yeah, but it says that these kind of occurrences are becoming more
Uh huh.
common, though not usually quite as intense as what happened on Thursday. Basically, Thursday was the last day in the contract, and few buyers would be willing to take a position. Most already moved on to other contracts, so there was very low volume, and it just ended up with an outsized move. And someone said that it's suggestive of a large player getting caught short and losing big, but we don't know who that was. So it's just interesting because it's like you know, kind of like a fluke thing that happened, and yet they say they think that this will be more common. So
Yeah,
apparently, there's action in natural gas markets.
well, if you think about the oil market, you're in 2020. That's what sent the prices, negative, and so
Yep.
we have seen it probably more regularly since at least 2020. It feels like for sure. So, okay, Dr. Wald, you had to help me out here. This one I do not know. It says oil prices could reach 100 this year. It's bad for
Oh.
it's bad for oil producers too. Unfortunately, this is behind a paywall, so I could speculate why
Oh.
it's bad
Me
for them,
too.
but I'm curious why it is bad.
Oh. That's weird. The first time I read it, it wasn't behind a paywall, and now it is. Apologize for that. I usually do not pick articles that have paywalls. Yeah. So, what was I? Why did I like? Why did I like this article? Huh. Um, Basically, I thought it was interesting because they were arguing that it's really not in OPEC's interest to see oil prices go higher than like $90 a barrel, because there is potential for what they call demand destruction. And I know we haven't been seeing that yet. And when we talked to Dean Foreman last month, earlier in the month, he, mentioned like we're not seeing that. It seems like the economy is still going strong, but there are some signs that oil could be like overheating basically, and being too high. And so I think, it'll be interesting. I don't think OPEC is necessarily going to do anything different at their meeting on Wednesday, but looking at kind of the overall issues, I do think, especially for the Saudis tend to prefer slightly lower prices than other OPEC members like Iran and Iraq, because they do fear a cutback in demand. And that's generally how they've always been. They just prefer slightly lower prices. They're looking at kind of the longer term picture as opposed to like how much can we get right now. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they're concerned about how high oil prices are. But what's interesting, and probably see this more in the JTC meeting, their market analysis, they don't think prices should be this high if you look at the fundamentals. So they're going to argue, look, prices are high because of speculation, because of people worried about Ukraine and trade and whatnot. It's not supply and demand. So what can we do about it? Even if they were like, we're going to double our quotas, they wouldn't necessarily be putting that much on the market anyway, because they can't. So, I think they're concerned about high prices, but they don't believe that the prices should be this high given the fundamentals. So that maybe there isn't much they can do.
I mean, look at the supply numbers though. It seems like there was a time where it felt like the prices were inflated, but now with where storage is at, inventory is at, it feels like this is kind of right. I don't. What would be their argument?
Well, I think their argument would be that, like, with storage is what it is, it should be in the 80s, in the low 80s, maybe.
The way it is.
The 90s.
I
mean, how much more is storage down now than it was in December or when oil was like 75 or 78? Is it really much lower?
Let's see. I can pull up the API thing. I think.
Yeah.
API.org. Yeah. Let's see. Chief. I was that they updated the website here. Monthly statistical report. Yeah. Here we go. Okay. Let me put this on the screen here. Share screen. Okay, can you see that?
It's kind of tiny, but
yeah. But I mean, it's on the screen though, right?
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see here.
Yeah.
Where's their production, imports, exports? Okay, here's
total inventories.
All right, there we go.
Total crude oil inventories.
Yeah.
So this is for December.
This is for December. And so if you look at it, that line, those last, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, from August to December, we kind of slight uptick, at least in relationship to the 5-year range.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
But what was oil in August?
you're asking tough questions now. Brent oil,
I know.
August 2021. Yeah, so
Let's
it would have
see.
been 70, something like that, 75. 70,
Right.
yeah.
So shouldn't oil be maybe 80 if you're just looking at the fundamentals?
Well, so I guess, yeah, possibly. The other thing would be is, that's not what I want to do. There we go. Yeah, I mean, possibly. You could say that. But
Yeah.
that's assuming that it was priced right in August, though.
Okay. That's true.
And
But
so,
August was OPEC wasn't producing as much in August
let's see.
either, and neither was the U.S. So now we have more production.
Right.
We have lower. So I just think, yeah, inventories are low, but I just don't think that they're. I just don't think that it's low enough that we should have $90 Brent.
So, I guess so. The question for the OPEC would be is
Yeah.
$90 Brent is going to incentivize more people to drill than $70 Brent.
Yeah. Will it? That's a good question. I don't know. Is it incentivizing more people in the Permian or whatever to drill? I don't know.
Right.
So like,
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm not sure that that's
yeah,
actually. I mean, you will have more people drilling this year than last year, but I'm not sure it's going to be. We'll find out. But
yeah. Because I think that Saudi Arabia would probably prefer $75 Brent to 90 at
yeah.
this point. But I mean, it's not like they're gonna like not pocket the money.
Yeah,
But
I get the incentive, which is hey, if you want the incentive to be right to drive the price, but I don't know. I don't know. That's
yeah, let's see what they say.
that's just but with one of the things we talked about a lot last year was the monthly meetings really helped OPEC. It felt like it was a good move. Well, if what you're saying is their thesis is correct, the prices are too right, then they should use that same leverage for this year, right? So if it helped them kind of curtail drilling potentially excitement in the market last year, then
Yeah,
they should use it the same way this year, which would seem to be demand was going up, but it just someone commented demand was going up. But the only thing with that last chart, it showed that inventory was heading closer to the 5-year range than it was in August. So
yeah.
it seemed as if supply was going up, going through the end of last year. We'll see what it says for January. Anyways, I think that they should use this monthly meeting to really set the agenda and the tone. Like, what would let me ask you this? What would stop OPEC from sending a false signal to the market that they're really going to increase drilling?
Well, they can't. I mean, can they? They can't. Look, Saudi Arabia will keep increasing. UAE will keep increasing. Iraq will keep increasing. Who knows what Libya can do? And they keep kind of falling behind. Like Reuters just came out with its OPEC survey, and they said that they increased by like 210,000 barrels between December and January, which is like 100,000 short of like where OPEC should have been, at least, I think. So I don't know what the OPEC Plus contribution was, but so if they increase another 400,000 barrels a day, but they only put 200,000 on the market, yeah, it's a little bit of help, but it's confusing.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay. Let's see here. Speaking of forecast, VA forecast oil production will grow in 2022 despite recent production outages in Libya. Okay, so they
Yeah, I mean
have
that's like what I was talking about, basically.
right, and so Libya's crude oil production, um, they shut in what 370,000 barrels. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's this? I haven't been following this. What's the situation there?
I honestly am not totally sure what the situation in Libya is either, other than that, like, it's on again, off again. You cannot depend on them. On the other hand, production from Iran is clearly up. I mean, they just sent a huge thing of like gas condensates to Venezuela that Venezuela is going to use to mix with its heavy oil to then export. So, and no one seems to give like care at all that, you know, Iran is just sending its oil everywhere.
Well, there was talks last week with the Biden administration and the Iranians.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going anywhere. Like I mean, I think that if the Biden administration starts to really get concerned about getting something accomplished, then it will like give in on things in order to have something to show for it. But the truth is that like Americans really don't care about Iran at this point.
No, I'm thinking about from the standpoint of just barrels recorded on the market.
Oh,
Just
I haven't looked at the latest data from tanker trackers, but they're usually really good about getting an accurate picture of what Iran is putting on the market. So you should check that out.
yeah. Okay. One more Ukrainian Russia. So I should have moved this up earlier. Sorry. Ukraine and Russia conflict could hit the U.S. steel industry. I
Yeah,
guess.
I thought this was interesting.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, well, just because, so US steelmakers apparently rely on Russia and Ukraine for shipments of pig iron and steel slabs, which are used to produce raw steel at steelmakers.
Mm.
But, what if something happens? Are they going to be cut off from all trade? And I don't know where these steel things are being shipped from, but it's possible they could be being shipped from the Black Sea.
Mm.
And if there is any kind of conflict in the Ukraine area, then it's likely that, so it says U.S. sources from several key producers on the Black Sea, many of which account for a significant share of the U.S.'s low phosphorus, higher priced pig iron. So, even if the U.S., even if it's not cut off due to like U.S. sanctions or whatnot, there could be an interruption in the flow of the stuff due to whatever the heck goes down there. Which in turn could be problematic because we're talking about like economic growth and everything, and is manufacturing really that strong? And if you can't, I mean, like talk about like more supply chain bottlenecks.
Yeah, we can pick up some of the slack it says from Canada. Um, so, but you'd expect that would obviously still put a strain on prices. I would assume that if the Canadians
Yeah.
are selling to us, and we hit them up for that. Yeah, I don't know. The more you go through these stories, it's just harder to imagine that we're gonna. Right. So okay, let's play this out again with the sanctions talk. You can't buy your steel from the Russians now. Okay, and the Ukrainians aren't selling anything. I just don't think the Biden administration has a lot of power here. I mean, they have the power, but a lot of political capital to do anything.
So, so,
It's just going to bite them everywhere they turn.
so then why are they hyping this up so much?
Well, because if you remember, there was a president named Trump, and during the Trump administration, he was criticized every
It
day for just
was.
being a lapdog for the Russians. Because if you say anything nice about the Russians, you're a puppet for Putin. And so now this
Uh-huh.
administration, which is full of warmongers like all of them are, has to play that game. And I think that goes a long way. Like how do you tell the American people that you're going to let it go when you crushed Trump for not doing that?
Huh. So this is a Russia, Russia, Russia thing.
I think so. I think so. I mean,
No,
let's.
and the Pentagon is all in.
Oh well, listen. The Pentagon. You've heard the what's it when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. That's the Pentagon. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I watched it the other day. Some guy talking about that. Oh gosh. Okay. Comment from our viewer: Biden admin really squeezing the material prices. Do they have any idea what they're doing? No. do they do these things intentionally? Well, that depends on if you believe they know what they're doing or not, right? So they're doing things
Yeah.
intentionally, but do they understand what they're doing? I mean, I think it's really hard for myself or anyone to kind of speculate on what all they're thinking. Obviously, we're kind of poking fun at it, but you know, at the end of the day, if you look at if you don't think that Biden with the midterms coming up, and it's not a Biden comment, this would be a Trump or whomever, but the midterms coming up, if they weren't conscious about their decisions and how it could have shaped the midterm for the last 2 years of their presidency,
Yeah.
that weighs into their decision making, right? And so
Oh yeah.
The Biden administration understands that doing something would send prices higher. So if they thought that would help their case, then they would be more open to it. If they think it's going to hurt their case, they're going to be
Yeah.
against it. And so that I don't know how much that weighs in, but that's definitely a factor.
Yeah. I mean, look, according to the latest EIA data, Russia is the number 3 oil supplier to the U.S. Looks like it's behind, well, I guess maybe they're not counting Canada, but I guess it's behind Mexico and Saudi Arabia.
That's number 4. But yeah, right. So
Or no, it's not. It's above Saudi Arabia, so I guess it's behind Canada and Mexico.
so top 2 or 3, whatever. Top 5. I mean, right? That's a number. That's a number. And so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. We talked about this already. OPEC output rises by 250,000 barrels. Not much there. We already hit that one. Okay, so last week we said that we think our prediction for the Russia kerfuffle will be over within a few weeks, a month, something like that. I still feel confident in that. Nothing's going to happen. Do you still feel the same?
Yeah, I don't think anything will happen. I think the US is like trying very hard, but I don't see that invasion is imminent. I don't see Europe, push comes to shove, I think they'll want to tone it all down. I do think that they want the Nord Stream 2 pipeline to open. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if if this kind of keeps up for a little bit, because there is some use in the like high level of alert type thing on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, at some point, like they're gonna have to turn the tanks around.
I think you made a good point earlier, which is that if Russia, it's like off of a Jurassic Park where they said the raptors keep poking the fence, but never the same place twice, trying to figure out how to escape. The Russians keep poking NATO, poking the Europeans.
Yeah.
Eventually, if they want to invade, they kind of have worn people down, or it's kind of a commonplace thing. And I hope, I don't know. The whole thing just drives me crazy at this point. But they're not calling me for my opinion.
No.
But they are listening. They are listening because I know we have plenty of listeners in Russia. And so let's see here.
Do you think Russia do you think the Russian people want to invade Ukraine?
The Ukraine, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Not. Let me rephrase that. Not yes. Like yes, they want to do it. Yes, they're probably more okay with it, but because they don't think it's a real fight. I would suspect,
Yeah.
right? I don't know if the
Probably.
Russian people are interested in a real fight, and I say that because not to, like make fun of them. I just don't know if they're actually looking for a war. It takes so. So let's see here. We rank high in Romania and Austria. So for those people listening, let us know. Let us know what's going on over there. Norway, Portugal. There's Russia. Yeah, there we are. We're Russia. We are. We're in the Russian rankings. So for all our Russian friends, reach out and let us know what the Russians think. 'Cause I
Yeah.
have no
What do
idea.
you guys think?
Anyways, okay,
Yeah.
Dr.
Do you
Wald,
think-
where will you be this week?
This week, let's see. Well, this week let's see. I will be on Twitter following the OPEC meeting for sure on Wednesday. I will be on investing.com on Thursday, and possibly by the end of this week, I may have a piece coming out on Bloomberg Law, which has to do with a recent ruling about whether local cities can sue oil companies for climate change in federal court or not, which I'm sure is a scintillating thing for most of you listeners.
Okay, Inside the War Room and the Future of Tech podcast. I have some episodes coming out this week. And then Something else. I don't remember. Something else.
Let me put in a quick plug for next week because we will have a special guest.
Oh yeah.
The author of this book, Gaslighted: How the Oil and Gas Industry Shortchanges Women Scientists by Christine Williams. That we're going to be talking to Christine Williams, who is a sociologist at University of Texas in Austin, about this book. So tune in next week for that very interesting interview.
Well, this podcast does not shortchange women, so there we go. Dr. Wald, it is good to be back once again, and we'll be back, I guess. It feels like I've been on vacation. Man, we've had people sick every day this month, it feels like, in my house. So it's kind of crazy. We've been back, though. We were at the hospital yesterday. So it was, I know. It's just,
man.
I know. I think
you guys need to sit tight, get better.
I know. So it's the first time all the kids are at school since.
Wow.
Well, okay, we had one that doesn't go too young, but the ones that can't go to school for like 2 or 3 weeks. It's been crazy. And so speaking of that, tomorrow is Ella Kate's birthday. She turns 12. So happy birthday to
birthday,
Ella Kate. So okay, with that, we'll be back next week.